for the ranch school business manager and his wife and child. And then during the Manhattan Project, Hans Beta and his wife and 2 kids lived here. Now, to live here on Bathtub Road, you had to be pretty darn senior in the organization, which Hans Beta was. He was head of the theoretical division during the Manhattan Project, the heart and soul of the project. His boss, Robert Oppenheimer, lived right next door. Now, that's the house that everybody would like to go see, but the owner still lives there. She and her late husband have already given the house to the museum. Wow. It's in a living trust, and that lets her live out her years in her home, and then eventually we'll take it over and open it to the public. Now, I was over there last summer at her 99th birthday party. Wow. And I would like to share with you all the story she told at her birthday. I think it'll give you a real feel for town. But before I tell the story, let me just preface it with some information. The Oppenheimer house has always been and still is the most prestigious house in this town because Robert Oppenheimer lived there. Now, today there are bigger houses. There are better houses. But there is no house in Los Alamos with more prestige than the Oppenheimer house. The realtors in town tell us if that had gone on the open market, instead of being gifted, it would have sold for $2 million. Wow. They say this house next door, if it went on the market, would sell for $1 million. So that is $1 million worth of prestige next door. So just understand that. So back in the day, this was run like a military base. Everybody had points. The higher up you were in the organization, the more points you had. And you had to have plenty of points to live in Bathtub Road. So now you've got that background. I want to tell the story that the owner of the Oppenheimer house told on her 99th birthday. Her name is Helene Sudam, S-U-Y-D-A-M. Her husband was Jerry Sudam, a very senior PhD physicist who had enough points to live on Bathtub Road. They came after the Manhattan Project in the late 40s, and they lived elsewhere in town. But Helene had her ear to the wire, and she heard that the Oppenheimer house was coming up for lease, and she wanted it. So she said to Jerry, "You go to the housing office and get me that house." And he said, "Yes, dear." He went to the housing office. He put in for the Oppenheimer house, only to find out that another senior PhD physicist and his wife had already put in for it. And worse, they had the exact same number of points that Jerry and Helene had. Jerry put in for it. He went home to Helene. He told her, "I did what you asked, but I don't think we're going to get that house." Another senior couple had already put in for it, and they had the same number of points that we have. "Thank you very much, Jerry," she said. "Appreciate that you tried for us." And the next morning, Jerry went to work, and after he left, Helene went to the housing office where she had a friend, and she got her friend to give Jerry one more point. And have lived in it ever since. Now, lest you all think that Helene may have a black mark on her record up here, it is my belief the day she and Jerry gave that house to the museum, her slate got wiped. So that's what it was like back in the day here. All of these houses were sold in the mid-60s. They had been owned by the Atomic Energy Commission, and they divested themselves, and I don't know the exact dollar amount they were sold for, but it was for not much. So people that could afford to in town would buy 2 or 3 houses. Jerry and Helene were in the house at the time this offer came up, and if you were in the house, you got first dibs. So that's how they bought it, and how they've lived there, and they've taken very good care of that house, and we feel very lucky to be the recipients of that gift.